Hello, everyone. My name is Lexi, and welcome back to Sincerely Self Podcast. Today, I am joined by Vance Morris. So, Vance, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. Well, I was born in a little log cabin in New Jersey. That's probably too far back for you, right? I'm just kidding. Sure. So, started my career with the Disney Company. Spent a decade working for the Mouse down in Orlando. Had a lot of fun down there working on a number of their projects, opening up a couple of their resorts and being on the design team for some of their attractions. I get the question a lot. What do you mean? You left Disney? And I'm like, yes, I left Disney. Some people do leave. It's okay. But after 10 years, I figured it was time to go and see what else was out in the world, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Had a few other corporate jobs. Started to realize I make a lousy employee. Just don't like to be told what to do. So I started my own businesses. I actually started with home service companies. I have a carpet cleaning company, a oriental rug washing facility, and a mold remediation company, which I still own. I've had those for about 17 years now. But what I did was take all of my Disney knowledge on customer experience, on marketing, on operations and systems, and I put it into those businesses and really created premium level services. 2020 did an expose on carpet cleaners where we steal the change from your seat cushions and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So really built those businesses based on the Disney culture. And then people started to ask me, well, geez, how are you doing that? So in about 2012, 2013, I started consulting and created my coaching and consulting business, which is Deliver Service Now Institute. And it's just grown ever since. I still own those home service businesses. They're essentially on autopilot, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs try to get to that point where they put systems in place and those systems give you freedom. They give you freedom to go and, hey, if you want to go sit on the beach and drink beer and eat bonbons, I guess you could do that. Or it gives you freedom to go and do something else in the business world, start another company or find another revenue stream or something along those lines. So for me, it was, well, you know what? A lot of companies just need help. And so that's what I decided to do with my time, was find small businesses that really didn't know that they could make premium services, premium prices in highly commoditized businesses. So, I think you'll agree Disney is a master at extracting money from your wallet and leaving you feel happy about it. You know what I mean? And that's essentially what I show folks how to do is, how do you create an experience where people love to see you? They're excited to have you either come to your home or try your product or, receive your service. And they don't mind paying the premium because, well, the experience and the value was worth it. Yeah. And so that's what I'm doing these days, is pretty much working in the Institute, showing small businesses how to do that.
That's amazing. What do you feel like are some specific aspects from your time at Disney that you've been implementing into your business?
Sure, great question. So certainly attention to detail. Disney is certainly known for their attention to detail. I mean, I go there probably 3 or 4 times a year, and I'm still amazed that, you walk through the park and there's, a guy from the landscaping department, and he's literally got a pair of scissors and he's snipping at the bushes, and then like not 5 minutes later, his supervisor's coming by with their own pair of scissors and snipping around, and I'm just like, holy cow. I mean, it's just a bush, but, they're in there all just snip, snip, snip. Everything has a story to it. I mean, there's no detail that wasn't planned. And what I found out a few years ago, I didn't even know this when I worked there, is Disney actually has this entire, it's like 50 acres, and they have replicas of all of the plants and trees that are in all of the parks and resorts. So that if something gets struck by lightning or if a tree dies, they just go out to this farm, they pick up that tree, they bring it in, chunk, drop it into the ground, and it's like nothing ever happened. I'm like, holy cow, that's amazing. So really, it's that attention to detail. I mean, they do it with everything. And we certainly had that instruction when we were working at Disney. But I mean, I still discover stuff that the company does that I'm like, holy cow. And it really started with Walt, though. I mean, Walt Disney was known for, I mean, he was a tough guy to work for. I mean, yes, he brought us, the wonderful world of Disney and all the cartoons, and his public face was, very nice, and the kids loved him. He was Uncle Walt. But, some of his animators, I mean, he was a tough guy to work for, and he was known for throwing things away. He was known for temper tantrums. He was known for yelling at people because this is not up to our standards. I expect you to do better, and literally would throw away weeks and months worth of work because it wasn't up to his standards. And I'm happy to say that that level of attention to detail has stayed with the company 40 years after his death, 50 years after his death. So, and I think we're all in detail-oriented businesses. I mean, I consult a lot with the healthcare field, and I usually go in the front door. And I'll sit in the waiting room and I'll just kind of wait for the orthodontist or the dentist to come out. And I look around the waiting room and I'm like, okay, well, there's the 2-year-old magazine and there's the dusty house plants and, there's the watermark on the ceiling tile. And I'm like, what is that environment conveying to your patients? Dusty houseplant? I mean, are your instruments clean that you're going to be jamming in my mouth later on? I mean, all of those things speak. So, every detail in your business is either enhancing or detracting from the experience. There is no middle ground. So that dusty houseplant is certainly not helping you, and it's detracting from the experience. So certainly, attention to detail is probably number one.
Yeah, I did a podcast with an art consultant, and that kind of reminded me what she was saying. She said that the businesses she worked with, the atmosphere, it totally affects the way that you view the place. Like, attention to detail is really what makes a business thrive. So I love that you've kind of noticed that from Disney, and you're like, you know what, this is a really great trait to carry on, and that they're continuing to do it.
Yeah, certainly. And, I think we're all in detail businesses. Certainly in my cleaning businesses, that cleaning is a detail-oriented business, and anybody who comes on new to these operations, I mean, I haven't actually been in the business in a number of years, and sometimes I'm embarrassed I don't know the employees' names. But like we wash our trucks before we go out on the road every single day. I mean, we're a cleaning business. It would look kind of silly for us to be driving around with mud on the truck. But there are companies out there, and they don't care. They just drive around with dirt, dirty windshields or stuff on their dashboards. I'm like, no. This is not how we portray ourselves. We're here to make an impression. And if you drove up and you got out of the truck and you smelled like, the Marlboro Man who just took a shower in Axe, that's not an impression we want to make.
Yeah. So I kind of want a little story. I know you've worked with so many businesses throughout your time doing Deliver Service Now, but what was one of the businesses you worked with that kind of stood out to you? Like the way you were able to help them really stuck out to you?
Sure. There's two that are what I really call, over the top success stories. And I'll preface it with, you don't have to do this, because I mean, a lot of your listeners are going to be like, I can't do that. That's costs a lot of money. And I want to preface it with, if you want to impress your clients, if you want to create experiences, they don't have to cost any money. And actually, I just created a hot sheet, 52 ways to wow your customer without breaking the bank. So there are ways to do it. So I had a dentist who was a client of mine, and she was just getting beat up. She had 7 other dentists in her building, not just in her town, but in her building. And they all took insurance. They were all charging about the same for their appointments. And she was just like a robot, like an assembly line. I mean, they just kept coming in, and she was miserable. I mean, she had all these employees that all they did was insurance billing, and she just wasn't making a lot of money, and she was tired. And I said, well, let's brainstorm some ideas. And I said, so tell me a little bit about yourself. And so we got into just a little bit of her personality, and it came out that her favorite movie was Peter Pan. I said, okay, I think we can work with this. I said, well, what's your favorite type of person to work with? She goes, I love working with the kids. I said, okay. I said, well, how do you feel about just being a pediatric dentist? Just skip all the old people. Anybody over 18, forget them. Just work with the kids. She goes, yeah, I think I would like that. They don't complain and they don't say anything. I was like, all right. So let's take Peter Pan and marry it with pediatric dentistry. So here's what she did. She became the pirate dentist. All right. So she started dressing like Captain Hook, and all of her dental assistants dressed like Mr. Smee. And they walk around the office saying "arg," and in the waiting room they had this shipwreck kind of jungle gym thing where they wait. The kids could wait. Their floor was painted so that it looked like the ocean, and then the chair where they cleaned your teeth looked like a little rowboat. And there were little islands and stuff. And then when you were laying down in the chair looking up, the TV was, movie of Peter Pan playing. She became so popular. One, she was able to stop taking insurance and charge whatever prices she wanted to charge. So that alone made her like a ton of money because insurance was keeping her held down. She was able to eliminate 2.5 people because that's all they did was insurance billing. Excuse me. So that alone was like $120,000 or $140,000 in salaries that she no longer needed because she didn't have to worry about insurance. That money went straight to her bottom line, straight into her pocket, just by going to a cash-only model. And now she's got a wait list, she can't handle anymore. She's at full capacity. She's added 2 dentists, and she now only works part-time while making the same amount of money. So you look for ways that you can take what you do. We're all in commodity business. A dentist is a dentist is a dentist. What separates one dentist from another? It's the experience they provide. So you look at what you can do, look at what is in your personality, look at what's in your background, and how can you use that to really separate yourself from everybody else in your industry or everybody else in your town. The other example I would have is with, and this one didn't really cost any money, it cost a little bit, was I worked with a string of service stations, like a Jiffy Lube or Quick Lube kind of play, did oil changes. And he was in the same boat. He was getting coupon clipped to death, and they were just racing to the bottom with their prices. So every time Jiffy Lube dropped their price, he had to drop his price. And he said, this is crazy. I'm working myself to death and I'm not making any money. I said, well, there's no competitive advantage to being second cheapest. So let's go the other way. So after some brainstorming, we decided he would be like one of those 1950s style service stations. You've probably seen it in the movies where 4 guys run out. One guy squeegees your windshield. The other guy checks the air pressure in your tire. And some guy opens the door with white gloves. So he's doing all this. And they put the little sleeve over the seat so they don't get it dirty. And then one guy walks you into the waiting room and there's not 3-day-old stale coffee. There's actually a barista in the corner making your favorite coffee drink. And you'll never guess who the barista was. It was one of the guys who does the oil changes.
Oh, wow.
They just rotate. So he trained all of his guys on how to make coffee drinks. And so he's got like 11 baristas, and they just all rotate. 1 day a week, they go in and they make coffee. He's charging like 60% more than all of his competitors. He's got a line out the door. He's serving a few less customers because they take their time to do all these experiences. But he's more highly profitable than anybody else. And it's just amazing to see what he could do. And none of that cost anything. I mean, he changed the uniforms. Okay, he got a little investment there. He had to buy, I don't think he actually bought an espresso machine, but he did buy a nice coffee machine so he could make coffee drinks. But you wouldn't expect that in an oil change place, Mm-hmm. But now he's just like the dentist. He's like, man, this is easy money now. And he doesn't have employee turnover anymore because they're not working to death. There's less wear and tear on the equipment, less wear and tear on the building. Everything, just by going premium, he's more profitable and he's happier.
Yeah. I feel like both of the stories that you just shared with us are such a good example of a theme that I have ongoing throughout this podcast, which is authenticity is always going to reward you. And in both of those stories, I feel like that's something that you focus on so much in your business to help businesses implement. And it just shows in the numbers, in the customers, in the money that comes back in. So it's almost like it's worth all the money you invest in the first place because you're going to make it back.
And do it slow. I would recommend to people do it slowly. Like these two, they just jumped in, feet first, no safety rope, burned the bridge. They just went all in.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I would recommend, start small. Do something simple and something small. See how that experience improves. Maybe raise your prices a little bit. Then you start to get a little bit more cash in. You take half of that cash, put it in your pocket, or, in the bank as your profit, and then take the other half and put it back into the business to improve the experience some more. And then you improve the experience, you raise your prices a little more, and then you do that split, a little bit into the profit bank, and a little bit more investing into the business. And you just keep doing that, and that wheel just keeps turning, and sooner or later, you're head and heels above all your competitors. You've got a nice fat bank account. Your employees are happy. Your customers are raving about you because, oh my God, I got my favorite coffee drink at the oil change. Who's ever heard of that? And I didn't have to pay for it. I got it for free.
Yeah.
So, it's included in the oil change, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, people are worth spending more money if they get a better experience out of it.
100%.
So you've also released your book, Systematic Magic. What was the thought process that kind of went into this book?
Well, certainly I wanted to really boil down everything that I learned at Disney into actionable points or actionable strategies that anybody could use, any business could use. And so again, we talked about detail. So one of the chapters is all about attention to detail. And I designed it like a workbook. So at the end of each chapter, there's some questions that you should answer, and put notes and strategies and what a game plan that you're going to put together. There's a section in there about how to wow your customers. And again, we can spend a minute on that. Again, wowing doesn't have to cost anything. Have you ever flown Southwest?
I have.
Southwest, they do it differently. We've all been on that Southwest flight where the flight attendant or the pilot or somebody is kind of joshing around, making jokes. So I was on a Southwest flight a number of years ago. And you know how when you're getting ready to land, they make that announcement, please be careful opening up the overhead bins. Items have a tendency to shift in flight. The FAA mandates that everybody says that. So American says it, Delta says it, they all say it. Well, in this flight, we're getting ready to land, and over the intercom, they say, please be careful opening up the overhead bins. Items have a tendency to shift in flight, and as you know, shift happens. Get it? Shift happens.
Yeah.
So we were smiling, we were chuckling, but what did that cost Southwest to do that? Nothing. Didn't cost them anything. And 189 other people plus me got off that plane, and we were kind of smiling. Most airlines, you're just happy to get off the plane. And Southwest, and they're a budget carrier, so they're not going through all of this extra first class stuff. And so creating a wow moment doesn't have to cost you anything. Just answering the telephone. Here's a tip for your listeners. Answer the telephone live. If you want to blow your customers away, answer the phone live. Don't let it go to a phone tree. Don't let it go to voicemail, because that going to voicemail is like just sending them into the abyss. They just went over the edge, and they're in Dante's Inferno somewhere. Answer people like my companies. We answer the phones live, and I can't tell you the number. And I listened to some of the calls for quality assurance, and I can't tell you the number of people said, "Oh my God, you answered the phone." And we're like, well, yeah, for us it's normal, but for others they're like, oh my God, nobody ever answers the phone anymore. So, that's just one of those no-cost things to get you to say, wow. Some of the other chapters are dedicated to, one of them is dedicated to the environment, and not like Greenpeace or Save the Whales, that kind of environment, but your sales environment. What are you doing to create an environment that is conducive to sales? Eliminating the sales prevention department. Do you have a place where, whether it's a store, whether it's a website, where you really get them completely engaged in your business? So when it comes time to present price, or when it comes time to check out, they don't feel like price is an object anymore. It's just completely irrelevant. And they just go ahead, okay, yeah, fine, take my credit card, click. Disney does that very well. I mean, because they've got you captured in their environment, and you can't compare prices to anything else in the outside world because, well, you can't get a Goofy rubber ball anywhere else except at Disney. Now, you can compare it to a rubber ball at Walmart, but you can't get a Goofy ball at Walmart. So there you go.
There you go. Exactly. So you also have a one sheet that's available on your website. What is kind of detailed on that?
Sure. So that's the 52 ways to wow without breaking the bank. And the URL for it is wow52ways.com. And it is, you could do one wow a week for your customers, and you can, and you don't have to do all of them. Most of them are no cost. Some require a little bit of, very small monetary outlay, like handwritten thank you cards. Like what grandma taught you to do, right? People don't do them anymore, and if you want to stand out with your customers, write them a handwritten thank you note. Maybe you don't even do it for everybody. You pick your top 5 and write a nice heartfelt thank you note to your top 5 customers. You're going to blow them away. They're not expecting it. The mailbox is empty these days, I mean, you don't even get bills anymore. All that stuff comes online. I mean, the mailbox now might be, a pizza coupon and, a catalog, but not much in there. There's certainly things like that, doing a contest, win free movie tickets, send out an email, say, okay, first 2 people that reply back will win free movie tickets, and do a little contest. Things like that to keep them engaged with your company in between services. Because it's not the customer's job to remember us. It's our job to remind the customer we exist. And so, if you have 18 months in between purchases, say you're an HVAC company and you came out and you fixed my heat today, I might not need you for another 18 months until my air conditioning decides to crap out or I need a tune-up. Well, what have you done in those 18 months? Have you sent me a postcard? Have you sent me a newsletter? Have you sent me, a couple of emails just reminding me that you're out there? Or have you sent me nothing? And now when it's time to fix something, I don't remember who you were. And now I'm going to go right back to Google, and I'm going to Google air conditioning in my, air conditioners near me, and whoever's first, it might be you, it might not. I'm calling them. And now you just lost my business because you couldn't spend. I mean, so for my carpet business, I'll tell you, this is how much I have to spend to keep a customer. It costs me $22 a year to keep a customer. That's it. That's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
To get a new customer in the front door costs me over $200. So why would I would be spending $22 all day long trying to keep customers rather than spending $200 to get somebody I don't even know. At least the existing customers, they know, like, and trust me. They're ready to buy an upsell. They're ready to buy a cross-sell or a new service that I might be providing. New people, they're kind of wary. They're not ready. They don't know about your service. They don't know what's going on. So yeah, focus on your existing customers.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing like the personality back to the businesses, because I feel like since COVID especially, a lot of people get so detached. Like, yeah, businesses don't send out any thank you notes. They don't send reminder emails. They don't send many things following up. The person has kind of been taken from the business. So I love that you're kind of bringing that back and being like, that's what's going to stand out to people.
Right. Well, I mean, the most successful companies have created emotional connections with their customers. Think about Apple, right? When Apple comes out with one of their new doodads, there's like a line that wraps 6 times around the block waiting to buy this thing, whatever it is. But when Microsoft comes out with a new thing, I mean, there might be 2 people in the store buying it. Why? Because Apple has created an emotional connection. I don't know if you're an Apple user. I'm not, so I don't understand it. But Apple people, I mean, they're nuts. They're fanatics about Apple. Don't take their Apple away from them, right? Harley Davidson, same way. Disney, same way. How do they do that? They create emotional connections. So as small business owners, we need to do that too, because once you've created that, they're not going to leave you. You would have to royally screw up for a customer who's got an emotional connection with you to leave. So real quick example, like I use my children in my marketing shamelessly. I've done it for years. So, I mean, most of my kids are, very old now. So like my daughter, Emma, she's 17, but she used to do ballet. And I would take a picture of her when she was younger. She was 5 years old in her little tutu. And then I'd put her picture in my newsletter. And every year I would do it. So 5-year-old, 6-year-old, all the way up. And we were in a grocery store. She was probably 10 or 11 years old. And this lady came running up to us. Actually, she didn't come running up to me. She came running up to my daughter. She says, "Oh my God, Emma, how was your recital?" The daughter and I looked at each other like, who the hell's this lady? We're ready to go hide in the frozen food section. And I had to think, she's got to be one of my clients. She has watched my daughter grow up. She watched all my kids grow up through my newsletter. I've created an emotional connection with her. She's never leaving my company until she dies or moves. That's what small businesses have to do. You've got to create that connection and stop pretending to be some big corporate, muckety muck, because people do business with people. And okay, so you don't want to use your kids? Fine. Put a picture of your dog in there. You like to go fishing? Great. Show a picture of your, the fish you just caught. But do something that is going to get people out of the norm of, always asking for money. I mean, there's nothing worse than the only time you hear from a business is when they want money, right? Oh, here's our promotion of the month. Well, that means you want money, right? Oh, here's a coupon. Oh, that means you want money, or your accountant. Oh, here, we just did your taxes. Here's your invoice. Means you want money. That's a transaction. That's not a relationship. So whatever you can do to create that, you're going to have a much stronger bond and much better customer retention.
Yeah, just bringing in some sort of your personal life into it so people can connect with you.
Yeah, 100%.
So the last question I have for you, Vance, is what advice would you give to someone who is about to start their own small business?
Great question. Well, one, hopefully you've got some money in the bank because it ain't easy starting. 2 is never take your foot off the gas pedal. So when I started, I was literally fired from my last job. So, and we were supposed to live on my wife's salary. She was a regional manager for Starbucks, and so she had a nice 6-figure salary. And I figured, we're going to be okay. I'll just get the business running and up, and we'll be fine. Well, like 5 days after I started the business, she had a cerebral aneurysm and spent 11 days in the ICU. And she's still alive, but we almost lost her. And so, but point is that our household income went down to 0 overnight. So I had no choice but to boots on the ground, bootstrapping, grassroots, whatever you want to call it, scrounge for jobs. And that's all I've ever known for 17 years. I still have my foot on the gas. Like, I need to make money. I mean, I'm in a point now where I don't need to do that, but psychologically, I'm still there. I foot firmly planted on the gas pedal because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And so my advice is that keep your foot on the gas, keep looking, scrounging, be scrappy, whatever you got to do, use tenacity, whatever you got to do to get business to come in. No job too small until you get big enough that, okay, well, maybe you can turn down the small jobs. But really, that's it. I mean, it's just don't give up. Don't give up that tenacity. I'm repeating myself, but it's just really important. I mean, just you got to get in there and dig. It's not easy, but and a lot of people will say, "Oh yeah, you just place an ad on Facebook and you'll be fine." No, it's not that easy. Go find your friends and neighbors. Go hang stuff on doorknobs. Call your grandmother up. Say, "Hey, can I come over and sell you something?" And bring over, tell your grandma to bring some of her grandma buddies over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just be prepared for scrounging and then carry that through the rest of your career.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insight with us, Vance. I will have the link for your website as well as for your book so that people can go and check that out. And Vance, do you have any last words for the podcast?
Only last word I would have, and it's the only saying I have, is you won't profit unless you implement. So take one thing you heard today, just one, and go do it. Go implement it and see what you can get as far as progress, see what your results are. Just implement one thing.
I love that. Okay, thank you so much, Vance. I will see you guys next week.